got 4 minutes. Let's go.
Yes, sir.
I can't.
Like musical chairs. How are you? I'm good. Not talking back and forth. I'll try to.
Hey, how
I
are
don't
you?
know if anybody's good on it. Yeah. Thank you, Jen.
Sorry.
No, no, you're fine.
Some of them were from the depot.
Oh, okay, so they were already.
Yeah, so they didn't want to get this stuff over there. They're on the line. Yeah, they had a lot of them at the
How you doing? Me too. I wanted coffee, but it wouldn't brew for me.
And how you doing, buddy?
Motion for what?
Good, good, very good.
Remember we talked about yesterday?
Hello, everybody. It is 6 o'clock. We're getting ready to start. Welcome. We appreciate you all being here. Let's go ahead and get started. James, if you don't mind giving us the prayer this evening?
Be glad to.
Thank
Let's
you.
bow our heads, please. Our gracious Heavenly Father, bless the day that you give us to live, Lord, as we are an instrument in your city, in your town, in your country. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to invite Ace up for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all could stand up and remove your hats.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Council, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Thank you, Scott. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Who seconded? You,
I did.
James? Thank you,
Mhm.
James. All in favor of approval of the agenda, raise your hand, please. Great, thank you very much. Regarding new business, I'm going to turn it over to Ab. Ab, take it away, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have several items on our public hearing agenda this evening. I'll call the first one, item 1, to order. A public hearing has been called on item 1, Z-24-01 rezoning, formerly Z-23-13, Southeastern Property Developers, LLC applicant, seeks to rezone to PUD 5 parcels of land totaling 12.74 acres from the existing zoning shown below. Subsection 1, 1909 LLC property owner rezoned from C1 Neighborhood Business District, 1.7 acres, fronting approximately 150 feet on the east side of State Route 53 and fronting approximately 360 feet on the south side of Pendergrass Road. And number 2, Hilliard L. Lott, property owner, rezoned from R1 Single Family Low Density District, 2.73 acres, fronting on the south side of Pendergrass Road. And number 3, Queen Frank, as trustee of the Queen Family Trust, property owner from C2 General Commercial Highway Oriented District, 2.31 acres, fronting on the south side of Pendergrass Road, State Route 332, and fronting on the west side of Town Center Parkway. And number 4, Queen Frank, is trustee of the Queen Family Trust, property owner from C2 General Commercial Highway Oriented District, 4.14 acres between Pendergrass Road and Town Center Parkway. And number 5, Queen Frank, is trustee of the Queen Family Trust, property owner from C2 General Commercial Highway Oriented District, 1.86 acres, fronting on the southeast side of Town Center Parkway. The proposed uses are 292 luxury apartments and a brew pub. I hereby open that public hearing. Jennifer, could you confirm the public notice has been given? Thank you. All right. After we hear a report from Mr. White, the city planner, we will hear speakers both in support of and then in opposition to the application. All speakers must abide by the following rules, and these rules will go not only for this item, but all items on our public hearing agenda this evening. When I call you up, please state your name, your address, and whether you're a resident of the city of Houston. Speak only to the merits of the application, address all comments to mayor and council, refrain from personal attacks, discuss the facts instead of giving opinions and speculation. To allow an opportunity to as many people who wish to speak as possible, please refrain from duplicating points that have already been made. Agendas and outlines of public hearing procedures are located on or near to the entrance to the meeting room. And after the hearing is closed, the matter will be returned to the mayor and council, and then will appear on the agenda at our voting meeting. For the first one, Mr. Scoggins, are you going to present on that one?
I am.
How many speakers do you have in support of it, if any?
I have 2.
Okay. You don't have to tell me right now. If anybody's here in opposition and knows they're in opposition and intends to speak, if you would raise your hand. All right, so 3, 4? Okay. All right, we normally allow 10 minutes to speak, and since we just have 4 speakers and you just have you and 2 others, we will stick with that. I will make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak, and Mr. Scoggins, you'll be able to use whatever time you don't use as rebuttal. But before we move to that, Mr. White?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The planning staff has entered in a report for the record. The recommendation on this matter is for denial. However, if you elect to approve it, it's recommended that you approve it with conditions, several conditions, and a substantial reduction in proposed density. And an ordinance has been written in the event that you want to approve it with those conditions. And I'm not going to go through the details of the report, but I will after you finish your hearing. If you have questions or need additional information, please call on me, and I'll reply then.
I expected Mr. White's to take longer, so I ate a mint.
Me too. Jerry, Dr. Jerry, you're letting us down here now.
So,
I did too.
Mr. Scoggins, come on up, state your name, your address, whether you're a resident of the city of Houston. You've got 10 minutes total. I'll allow you to speak as much as you want, up to 10 minutes, and if there's time left, I'll call for other speakers, and then you can reserve any such time as you wish for rebuttal. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Sir, would you please use the microphone? Thank you.
Madam Mayor. Mayor.
There we go.
Madam Mayor, council members, my name is Joshua Scoggins with the law firm of Miles Hansford. My address is 202 Tribble Gap Road, Suite 200, Cumming, Georgia, 30040. I'm not a resident of the city of Houston. I am here tonight representing the applicant Southeastern Property Developers, LLC. Here with me tonight is Mr. Gary Calicott. He is with the development company. Also, Drew Cunningham is with our development team, and we have several of the property owners here tonight as well. Next slide, please. As Jerry and Ab mentioned, we are seeking a rezoning of 12.7 acres from 3 separate zoning districts, C1, C2, and R1, to a mixed-use planned unit development. Next slide, please. We're proposing 292 Class A luxury apartments, and I'll obviously go into those in more detail here shortly. In the building that is adjacent to Highway 53, we also have a proposed brew pub in the bottom floor of that building, so it'll be integrated as part of a vertical mixed-use building. Next slide, please. Here you can see the 5 tracts that Mr. Hayes actually designated separately when he was giving his presentation. You have 4 of those parcels to the north of Town Center Parkway, and then 1 parcel there to the south. But the property is bounded on 3 sides by State Highway 53, Pendergrass Road, and then Town Center Parkway. Next slide. You can see there the 3 zoning districts that we're talking about. That R1 there in the middle is the only residentially zoned tract in this mixed use. It only comprises, I believe, 2 acres of the overall total. The remaining property is currently zoned C1, which is the rectangle there next to 53, and then the rest of the properties are C2. You can see there to the south a multifamily residential townhome project that will have 300 townhomes in it. So we are, I think, we are comparable in terms of filling in an area here that isn't going to be developed as single-family residential. I don't think anybody's disputing that it probably shouldn't be single-family homes in the middle of a commercial node there. Next slide, please. Just so you can see it more easily, I've highlighted in blue the brew pub building, which is, if you orient the site plan by turning it clockwise, that would be the topmost piece, I believe is how it was shown on the planning director's presentation. And then you feather back to the green parcels, which are the residential component. And next slide. So with respect to the residential component, which is I know why most people are here tonight, I want the council to focus on quality. This developer is known for their Class A luxury apartment buildings. They have a very well-established and proven track record in this area, in Hall County, in Cumming, and Suwannee. And we can speak to that more if you have specific questions about those projects. I want to make it clear that we are not allowing any 3-bedroom units in this community. We're happy to agree to a zoning condition to that effect. They focus on 1- and 2-bedroom units targeted at empty nesters and young professionals. I like kids as much as everybody else, but we really don't want them in this project. we have analyzed all of the properties that this developer has built over the past several years in the area and have determined that on average, we have about one child per 20 residential units. So probably actually have more children in an age-restricted community than you might have here. Obviously, we have top-of-the-line amenities. Can you go to the next slide, please? These are very expensive. I think the average rent is probably more than a lot of mortgage payments. You have very high-end exterior finishes. Next slide, please. You can see there that 60% of these units are one-bedroom only. 40 would be two-bedroom. We'd have no three-bedroom, as I mentioned previously. The rent is $1,600 to $1,900. I think that's an average. I'm sure that those rents probably exceed $2,500 a month for some of these interior units. Next slide. All of these units have premium interior products. You're talking hardwood floors, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. Next. This is a fully staffed project where you have all of the amenities that are operated by full-time employees. This isn't a typical run-of-the-mill apartment complex where everyone just has a free-for-all at the pool or in the gym. Next slide, please. This is an example of several of the amenity facilities that they have in some of their other projects. Next one. The gymnasium and workout center that you'll have in this one as well. Next. These are not stock photos. These are photos of actual projects that have been developed by this group. Skip to the next one. Looking at your comprehensive plan, like many comprehensive plans, it specifies the need to ensure that you have an adequate housing supply of people. This is actually one of the very first provisions of your comprehensive plan. And as you see, the underlined section says we need to ensure adequate supply of housing is available in order to attract and retain young professionals and retired individuals. That's what these are designed to be. They're not intended for families. They're not designed that way. And go ahead, next slide. A project like this, people tend to point to apartments and say, well, you have a lot of school children. They're a drain on the revenue, a drain on services. We disagree a bit with Dr. White's about some of the population numbers and children that we've calculated to be here. The impact fees alone, just on the residential aspect of this, are $520,000 at the current rate. Next slide. You're talking about a project that's going to be in the tens of millions of dollars in terms of market value when it's completed. So you're going to have multiple millions of dollars in sewer and water connection fees, as well as property taxes in perpetuity. I know there's also been some concern raised about the lack of sewer availability in the area. I'm here to tell you we can't build it without the sewer, so it's not going to be built until the sewer's ready. And we understand that'll take several years. So it's not like we're going to snap our fingers and tomorrow there's going to be 6 buildings with 200 apartments on them. So we will be phasing this and keeping with, development trends in the area. We're not spec builders here. So just to sum everything up, and then I'll turn it over to the other speaker. You're talking about a very high-end project. Again, we're targeting people who have high net worths, who typically don't have families. This is a perfect infill site when I see 2 state highways bounding 2 sides of the property and then a parkway through the middle. I think if it were developed for commercial use, as the current zoning map shows, and as I believe Dr. White's had recommended in his staff report, I suspect you would see substantially more traffic than you're going to see out of a residential project where you have 1 or maybe 2 vehicles coming in twice a day, not 7 or 8 times. And at the end of the day, one of the things that I think everybody agrees on is we want to promote business. The comp plan states it ad nauseum. Dr. White states it ad nauseum, you can't have successful business without rooftops. It's just the way it is. And so I think that at the end of the day, these types of projects are what make businesses possible. And I've seen it repeatedly over the years. These become sort of centralized nerve centers for an area. I think it's going to be far more attractive than big box development. So with that in mind, I'm happy to answer any questions. Like I said, our development team is here, and I'll reserve the remainder of our time. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak in support of the application? If so, raise your hand. I have one hand. Y'all got about a minute left, so could you be pretty brief and come up? If you could just come to the mic and state your name, your address with your resident city of Houston, and like I said, y'all only got about a minute left.
My name is Thomas Harris. I live in Lawrenceville, Georgia. I'm not a resident of Houston. My wife and the Queen Family Trust purchased this property approximately 12 years ago, and we've been paying tax on it during that time, and we have not had an offer on the property until now. So we're getting older and would like to liquidate this property, and feel like that this is probably could be our only opportunity in the, I don't know how many years, but we would like to, we appreciate if y'all consider letting the developer build in your community. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the application? If so, I want everybody that wants to speak in opposition to raise your hand. All right, so I see 1, 2, 3. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Y'all can come up one by one. They went a little bit over, so I'll give you each about 2 or 3 minutes. So if you want to come up, sir, on the front, you'll come to the mic, state your name, your address with your resident city of Houston. I'll give you up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. A.C. Savita, 100 Powell Court. I am a resident of the city of Houston. So my concerns are obviously with the GDOT report that we just recently had, that the traffic on 53 is horrible, to say the least now. With the 2 exits onto 53 from Pendergrass and Town Center, it's almost sometimes very difficult to make a left turn onto 53. You're also going to add 500 more cars. If I remember reading correctly, the apartments are each going to generate 1.5 parking spots in that apartment complex, which I don't think is enough to accommodate all those, because a lot of times you're going to get split apartments, which means 2 people live in there. Is going to the very low rate of children, 1 child equals a school bus. And what we don't need are more school buses trying to get onto 53. So if you got 1 or you got 30 kids, you're going to have a school bus. So that's something in there. I don't think apartments are in keeping with what we want in the city limits for the lifestyle and to keep how the city wants to project itself. We still don't know what the impact of the build-to-rent and Almont Farms is going to have on us. It's 52 homes in that, so there's rentals already. And then the last thing is, I did a quick search in the general area of apartments very similar to what they're projecting, and there seems to be, between Friendship Road and Winder, over 80 vacancies for this style of apartment already. And what I don't want to have here is an apartment with 300 apartments in there, and when you're at 50% rental rate. And those are my points there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, sir. No, you can come on up. If you can state your name, your address, and what your resident city of Houston, you'll have up to 3 minutes.
My name is Michael Siegel. I live at 86 Powell Court in Houston. It's just it's not a it's just a concern that this project is thoroughly reviewed. I mean, we're trying to make the city beautiful, and if this project goes ahead, we have time to review it to make sure all the setbacks are covered by landscaping, and we're just developing our frontage where people travel through the 53, that there's enough setbacks, and we need more stores and restaurants for people to come to our city, and just cover ourselves to make sure that this property also has, provides sidewalks for the city, fronting the two areas, and also possibly light poles to make sure that they come into the city. So it's just to make sure with all these things that you review it and possibly have computer-generated drawings, videos, or so you can see the property develop before it's completed, so we have a complete understanding how it affects the city.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Butler, I think, were you one of the ones that raised your hand? Come on up. You'll have up to 3 minutes. You state your name, your address, whether you're resident of the city of Cushing.
Scott Butler. Do I need to talk into this?
Yeah.
Scott Butler, 448 Deer Creek Trail, Cushing, Georgia, resident for 33 years in the city limits of Cushing. That was a beautiful presentation from the developer and the landowner's point of view. Unfortunately, I did not hear what the landowner and developer are going to do to mitigate the impact on mine and my fellow citizens' lives and wallets. 300 residences are going to add, based on factual data from historical data, not I think it's only going to generate one trip a day. It's actually going to add close to 2,100 vehicle trips daily to downtown. GDOT just made a presentation in this very room 2 to 3 weeks ago where they're trying to remove 4,000 trips off of Highway 53. So if they're going to add 2,100, what is the development going to do to help remove or keep these residences' vehicles off of 53 and down to just one trip a day? I'd like to hear that. How is this development going to mitigate its impact on New Street, East Jefferson Street, and Highway 53? Without mitigating the traffic issues, this development will steal hours of our citizens' lives sitting in traffic. 300 residences could easily add 100 to 150 children because he can't regulate how many kids move into those apartments. They could add that many children to our school system. It currently costs $13,000 a year per one student in the maintenance and operation budgets. That's going to be an additional $1.3 to $2 million annually that the school system will need from mine and my fellow citizens' local property taxes and our state income taxes. I'd like to hear how this development is proposing to mitigate this cost so that current property owners and state income taxpayers aren't having to pay more taxes so this landowner and developer can maximize their profits. This property is already zoned for C1 and C2. There are many uses that this property can be used for without the community impact of 300 new residences. I think it would be in the best interest of all parties for this proposal to be tabled until a planning and zoning commission can be established. Considering the approvals over the last 5 years, I suggest that all of the landowners and developers get in this room and discuss how to mitigate their total impact on our community and our citizens and its limited resources. The city's comprehensive plan does talk about apartments, rentals, fill-ins. I think we're close to 2,000 now between build-to-rent townhomes, build-to-rent subdivisions, apartments. We're approaching 2,000 rental units in this city. I think we're pretty much maxed out on the need for rental units in this city. So I would just like to hear them tell us, the citizens, what they do to minimize the impact of their development on our community.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Thank you.
All right, then we have one gentleman in the back. You'll come up, state your name, your address, whether you're resident of the city of Cushing. You'll have up to 3 minutes.
Good evening, my name is Jack Flint, 585 Cumberland
Just
Trail.
speak in the microphone just so the folks in the back can hear you.
Jack Flint, live at 585 Cumberland Trail. I'm a resident of Houston. Got a couple of questions. It's just GP Enterprises, original people. GP Enterprises, so they're the one that made this proposition first?
Sir, you're welcome to ask questions. However, it'll be up to mayor and council as to who answers, whether they answer. It's not a question and answer session. It's just your time to speak for up to 3 minutes.
GP Enterprise gave their presentation, and in mid-sentence, they decided to go from 3-story to 4-story because they wanted to put an elevator in. When the final presentation came in, you couldn't object to that fourth floor because it was already in the books. You couldn't say anything about it. And I thought that was unfair. They changed in midstream and decided to go from 3 to 4, but you couldn't say anything about the fourth story. Also, was the square footage discussed? Did I miss that? And are they going to put a right turn lane when they build these complexes to help the flow of traffic when they build these apartments? And I'm not going to piggyback on what everybody else said. And Southeast Development, are they a local company? Never mind, you can't answer the question. Are they a local?
You can ask questions,
Right.
it's just we can't get into a question
Okay.
back and forth.
Thank you. Who is Southeast Development? What are they going to do for our city? And are they going to do required setback as prescribed by the city ordinances? Thank you for your time.
All right, y'all have, Mayor, Council, do y'all have questions for anyone?
Is now the time for comments.
Comments, questions, anything y'all want to offer before I close the public hearing this matter?
I will defer to any council member or the mayor that wants to speak first.
Go right ahead, please.
Mayor and council, I just want to make a few points and express a few concerns for the record. Our guiding principle as mayor and council of the city of Houston, per our oath of office, should always be to do all in our power to promote the general welfare of the inhabitants of the city of Houston and the common interest thereof. This proposal does not meet the PUD zoning purpose and intent. That's City of Houston Zoning Ordinance Section 4.08, Paragraph 1, items B, C, and F. Item B, encourage a broader mix of residential housing types, including detached and attached dwellings, and encourage mixture of compatible residential with non-residential uses in the same development. C, include civic and semi-public uses such as schools, playgrounds, meeting halls, etc., to help make up the community. F, provide development with greater benefits to the city than a development developed under the conventional zoning district, which is currently C1 and C2 for 10 out of the 12 acres. This proposal is inconsistent with the City of Houston Comprehensive Plan. Page 4. The city may need to take more aggressive measures to preserve its non-residential land supply and prevent conversion to residential that would impede future economic development. Page 6, vision. Houston will retain its small-town feel. Historic and cultural resources, page 9. Traditional character of the city should be maintained, encouraging new development that is compatible with the traditional features of the community. As was pointed out by the city planner's report, the height, bulk, scale, and design of this development are inconsistent with those goals. Economic development policies, page 9. Expand the city's economic base and increase employment opportunities. Certainly, converting commercial properties to residential will not expand the city's economic base and increase employment opportunities. This project is inconsistent with the future land use map in our comprehensive plan. They are proposing to convert 78.6% commercial property. The tracts, let me explain. The tracts currently are 78.6% by square footage commercial, 21.4% residential. They're proposing to convert it to 1.6% commercial and 98.4% residential. We are converting massive amounts of commercial property to residential if we approve this. Some highlights of the city planner's report: not enough parking, density and height not appropriate, not sufficient right-of-way along 332, particularly with future widening of 332 likely and certainly necessary. The bulk and scale are unsuitable for the property. The parcels have reasonable economic use as currently zoned, again, majority C1, C2. Additional 2,000-plus road trips per day in an already congested area. No sewer available for 5 years. Zoning is forever, Mayor and Council. Even when We have the sewer capacity at 2.0 in approximately 5 years. This will bring us to 1.87 million gallons per day, which sounds a little close to the 2 million capacity that we've agreed to expand to. There are unmitigated impacts to schools, additional law enforcement, fire, EMS, and administrative facilities and equipment. Converting commercial to residential will increase the property tax burden on the citizens. There are already 157 apartments in the city limits, with 685 apartments approved, giving Houston a total of 842 apartments in our 5.2 square mile city. The council believes in the purpose and content of our comprehensive plan, and this does not agree with that.
Do others have questions or comments?
Yes, if I may, I would like to ask Mr. Scroggins a few questions. Thank you. Hi, my name is Dave Brown. Quick question for you. As you've heard by now, traffic on 53 is quite an issue. And with this proposal, I'm assuming that you guys have thought about, like I think it was Mr. Flint spoke about, a traffic light on 53 and cut in so we could turn on the street?
Yes, council member. We're going to have to do whatever GDOT requires. We can't dictate a signalization. GDOT does that. We're happy to contribute our pro rata share to the cost of any signal. We're also going to install any necessary right turn lanes, deceleration lanes, and other intersection improvements required by the city or DOT.
Okay, and then the other question I have is, I'm assuming that you've read some of our ordinances in terms of what we allow per acre, how many units we allow per acre, and it seems to me that you're slightly over that. I think we allow 12 units per acre, and I think you're somewhere in the neighborhood of 21?
That's correct.
What are you going to do to try to meet our guidelines?
The PUD zoning district allows for densities to increase above the typical 12 unit per acre density cap for for multifamily residential. I know there are several projects in the city that greatly exceed our density that are currently approved or being built. I can tell you that when you're talking about a project of this size and scale, that cutting the density ends up creating more problems for the ability of the project to succeed.
For your project to succeed or for the city's project?
For our project to succeed,
Okay.
and also, again, back to my original point about business survival, sprawl is the killer of that. And having a bunch of 1-, 2-story apartment buildings or a bunch of single-family residential homes, I just don't see how in the world that's going to help support a growth in the business tax base. This property, as the original owner just mentioned, they've had it for sale for many years and they've had no offers on it. So as currently zoned commercial, I see no viable economic use.
Okay. You mentioned several times in your presentation that there will not be children here. How can you control that?
The best way to control it is by targeted marketing. What I mean by that is you can slap federal age restrictions, state age restrictions, unit sizes, limitations on everything you want to, but at the end of the day, you got to be careful not to engage in age discrimination. So I don't like to overtly say something in a zoning condition like we won't have no children or anyone here under 18 years of age, but if our apartment units are 700 square feet and they're 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, that has the practical effect of keeping families, for the most part, minimized.
Okay, my final question is, our city is growing. We've got quite a few homes, or rooftops, as you call them, in our future. One of our big problems downtown in this area is parking. And when I did some pretty simple math, it showed that you do not have sufficient parking for the units that you're selling. So where will these people be parking?
I can tell you, I have not counted each individual space on the site plan, but we're not asking for a parking variance. Whatever the code is, the code is. If it cuts the number of units, it cuts the number of units.
Okay. All right, thank you.
right, does anyone else have questions or comments?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Scoggins? You mentioned that you've done other projects, or the developer has in Swanee. Can you give a list of those to us? You don't have to do them right now, but can you give
I'll
leave us a
let
list?
Drew Cunningham, he's with our development
Okay.
team, come up and speak to that.
That's fine.
Mr. Cunningham, since you haven't previously spoken, if you can state your name, your address, whether you're a resident of the city of Houston, and then respond to Mr. Porter's question.
Sure, yeah, Drew Cunningham, 1776, Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia, not a resident of Houston. Yeah, so we've done, other projects nearby. Most recent one would be the Finch, down the road in Brazelton. That's probably as easiest to get by and see. And as we talked about in the presentation, all of our apartment communities have, high-end finishes, granite countertops, luxury style pools, high-end fitness centers, really the amenities that the young professionals and empty nesters that we're targeting want to come and use. But that's probably the closest one. I can provide you a list of some other developments.
I would
after the meeting.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I can do that for you.
Have you ever looked at other options, that just besides the option you're showing us right now, more of the live, work, play type of environments that could go there?
Do you mean like more?
More like what Swanee looks like, because you guys mentioned you were in Swanee.
Yeah, but we've looked at other, like are you talking about like ground floor commercial type of stuff?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can look at that and entertain those types of ideas as well.
Thank you.
All right, other questions or comments from mayor or council? All right, then I'll close the public hearing. We'll move to item 2 on our agenda. Public hearing has been called on item 2, V-24-01 variance. City of Houston applicant for Town Center 53 LLC, property owner, seeks a variance to the Houston zoning ordinance, Article 4, zoning district, Section 4.11, C2, general commercial highway oriented district, Table 4.4, dimensional requirements for non-residential zoning districts, to waive or reduce the required front building setback of the proposed Peachtree Road extension right-of-way, east property line, from 15 feet to 5 feet or 0 feet for property 1.54 acre fronting on the east side of State Route 53 and the south side of Town Center Parkway. It's C2 zoning. The proposed use is commercial. I hereby open the public hearing. Jennifer, could you confirm that public notice has been given? Mr. White?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this application has been initiated by the City of Houston, and the reason for it, as you know, is the city authorized the initiation of this request because we are expecting to have a Peachtree Road extension, and as you know, the Kroger development, which was rezoned, they are building and dedicating right-of-way for the Peachtree Road extension, which will go from the end of Peachtree Road now at 53 and cross over to Town Center Parkway. And they control all of the property with the exception of one piece of land that would need to be dedicated that they do not control, and that's at this corner of at the intersection of Town Center Parkway and State Route 53. And so we understand through talking with the Kroger applicant or the developers that the owner of this site had some concerns about dedicating the right-of-way needed to finish all of the right-of-way we need for that road, but that their main concern was that, well, if they dedicate the right-of-way, then their setback comes from a new line instead of where it was before, and that may impact their property. And so I suggested on my own initiative that we should be able to grant them a variance to that to reduce the impact of a right-of-way dedication. And so the council agreed to initiate that. That doesn't mean you voted to approve it, but here we are now. The staff recommends approval of it. We're not promising that landowner will take this variance and then dedicate the right-of-way. We're hopeful of that, but we don't have anything in writing at the present time to say that they do agree to that. However, there's no risk involved in this on the part of the city because we're recommending in the variance ordinance, if you approve it, that it will only be good if they dedicate the right-of-way. So there's, in other words, nothing to lose on the part of the city to grant a variance And then if it doesn't have the desired intent of getting the right-of-way dedicated, then it would not be effective in any event. So there's little risk involved. And so the staff recommendation is for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Whites. Does anyone wish to speak in support of this application? If so, raise your hand. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the application? If so, raise your hand. Do y'all have any questions for Mr. Whites or anyone? All right, then I'll close the public hearing. We'll move to items 3, 4, and 5, which we'll take together. Public hearing has been called on item 3, ordinance O-2024-02, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Houston, Georgia, Chapter 3, Administration, Article 8, Boards and Commissions, to adopt a new Section 3-801, Planning and Zoning Commission, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide for severability, to provide an effective date, and for other purposes. Public hearing has also been called on item 4, ordinance O-2024-03, an ordinance to amend the Houston Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance, Article 3, General Provisions, Section 303, City Council Authority, to retitle said section and assign roles to the Houston Planning Commission, to amend Article 4, Preliminary Plat, Section 405, Preliminary Plat Process Administration, to repeal the existing process flow chart and to adopt a new process flow chart, to adopt a new Section 408, Planning Commission Review and Recommendation, to amend Section 1204 Variances, to establish a role for the Planning Commission, to amend a Section 1207 Amendment, to establish a role for the Planning Commission, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide for severability, to provide an effective date, and for other purposes. And finally, a public hearing has been called on number 5, ordinance TA 2024-01, an ordinance to amend the Houston zoning ordinance, Article 1, General, Section 1.04 Purposes, Paragraph 5, to assign roles to the Houston Planning and Zoning Commission, to amend Article 8, Zoning Amendments and Applications, Section 8.01, Procedures for Calling and Conducting Public Hearings, Section 8.02, Text Amendments, Section 8.03, Amendment to the Official Zoning Map, Section 8.04, Conditional Uses, and Section 8.05, Variances, to assign roles for the Planning Commission, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide for severability, to provide an effective date, and for other purposes. And I hereby open the public hearing. Jennifer, could you confirm that public notice has been given? Mr. Whites?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you probably know, the City of Houston had a Planning and Zoning Commission until about 2020 or thereabouts, and then elected to eliminate it, and it did so through a series of ordinances that got rid of the Planning Commission and then wrote them out of the subdivision platting process and wrote them out of the zoning and variance process. Well, the desire of the City Council, as we understand it, is to resurrect, reestablish, reappoint the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so we brought to you the paperwork for that tonight, this evening. As Mr. Hayes has indicated, there's 3 ordinances. One has to do with the zoning ordinance, which basically writes back in a role, a recommending advisory role for the Planning and Zoning Commission to look at rezoning requests, conditional use permits, and variances, and make recommendations, non-binding recommendations to the City Council. Also, the amendment to the subdivision ordinance is such that it would give the Planning and Zoning Commission authority to recommend, hear and recommend applications for preliminary plats, not final plats, but preliminary plats. And so that's the purpose of that other ordinance. And then the third one, as indicated, is a city code amendment that reestablishes a planning commission. Now, the piece that's in there now, the first proposal was for a 7-member board. There's been some discussion offline among council members and with me that I've been made aware of, that there seems to be a desire to make it a 5-member commission as opposed to a 7-member commission. So we're expecting to make some changes to this, not to the zoning and subregs, but the city code amendment establishing the planning commission. There's some language in there that we think that we should change, and I know the city attorney may want to talk about physically how we do that, and when we can do it in terms of first and second reading and so forth. But there will be, I can itemize for the council the changes to that ordinance that I've heard that I think the city council wants to make, but I'll hold off on that until that's necessary and turn it back over to the city attorney to conduct the hearing, and then I'll be glad to respond from there.
Do you intend to go over the changes, in this meeting, Mr. White? Is that what you had intended?
Yes, I think I should, but I thought maybe I should wait on that, or if it's more appropriate for me to
Yeah, go
outline
ahead. I
those
think go
now.
ahead.
Okay, let me outline them now. If you have your copy of ordinance O/2024-02, paragraph 2 would be changed from 7 to 5 members. Paragraph 3 has to do with, the term of office would be 3 years, and we want to keep that, but the way it's written now, it would allow, all members to run concurrent terms of 3 years, and, we've decided that that's not such a great idea. You don't really want the, planning commission to all go away all at one time, so, we recommend that we write that in such a way to where it's not concurrent terms at your option. Rather, it would be, one member appointed for 1 year, 2 members appointed for 2 years, and two members appointed for 3-year terms. And then afterwards, that then changes a few other things. But paragraph 4, we also want to remove, quote, "for due cause shown," the reason for removing a member by city council of the planning commission. We don't believe that the council, it's an appointment at will by the city council, and you don't have to give due cause shown, and that just raises a bunch of issues about what constitutes due cause and turns it into an argument, so to speak. Also about vacancies, we don't want to number paragraph 5. We want to say that we don't want to require the city clerk to announce vacancies. It really should what we really want to say is just the last sentence in that paragraph, that vacancies, if there's any vacancies, that they will be filled by appointment for the unexpired term of the position that's vacated. Also, item number 6, we want to basically eliminate this provision regarding absences. This would have said, if you miss more than 3 regularly scheduled meetings in a calendar year, if a planning commission misses that, then the clerk declares the position vacant, and we think that that's not appropriate. The council, on the other hand, at any point can decide that they don't want a member to serve, and if they have a reason for doing that, then they can do it, and we don't have to have this automatic trigger to get somebody off the board. The rest of it, really, the last change had to do with the secretary and minutes. We want to say we don't feel that the commission needs a secretary per se, and we just want to say that the commission will keep records, and we also don't want to go beyond the absolute minimum here in the code, and we really want to say that they will have an agenda, they will have minutes of every meeting. The minutes will indicate members present, members who are absent, and with vote taken by each of those members on any items. And of course, minutes can be taken and they can be more detailed than that, but we're just setting out the basic minimums. Number 9B, the quorum then would change if you go from 7 to 5 members. Quorum would change from 4 to 3 members. And then finally, meetings, we want to remove some of the language in that paragraph regarding the city clerk. All we're really concerned about there is the city staff should basically set the meeting date and be sure what that is, so that there's not other conflicts with other meetings, because we don't want the planning commission to say, well, we're going to meet on Monday night at 6 o'clock when the city council meets at Monday night at 6 o'clock, or whatever the date might be. So that's all. We just have a little tweaking of language there. And so those are the nature of the amendments that we expect. And I guess what we would do is we'll put a final version of this as recommended, as I just suggested, for your package on your voting session, and then that would be, and Ab can speak to this, then, because we're making changes of it, then it may be, if it may be that we need to have two readings on that, but I'll leave him to speak to that.
What I think I'll do, Mr. White, is I'll go to see if we have any folks that want to speak as to this, and then we'll see about questions, then I'll kind of go over procedure from here, if that's okay. So, I want to ask for support, and against. I'll just ask if, does anybody wish to speak as to this item, if so, raise your hand. All right, do y'all have any questions or comments related to this?
I do.
All right.
Mr. Jerry, as far as recommendations, I think that needs to be strongly spelled out as far as recommendations, not setting policies for the city. And I think that's the issues that we had before.
Yeah, it is. I believe it's clear. Let me point out in, for example, in TA 202401, let me see if I can find that language for you. Yeah, on page 8, in the first big bold paragraph, it says the recommendation of the Planning Commission shall have an advisory effect only and shall not be binding on the City Council. So it's pretty clear, and the subregs also has, I think, similar language that says that, so it's clear that it's a recommending body, not a decision-making body.
That's correct.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, Dr. Sterling?
Yes, I was just gonna piggyback on, what James said, that, will the Planning and Zoning, Commission, will they understand what their role is and realize that they need to follow a chain of command? And, also the fact that they need to, make recommendations, and the final decision is with the mayor and council.
I believe the ordinances do, spell that out,
Okay.
and, they'll receive training, and I think that should be clear.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, then what we'll do from here.
Sorry, I just wanted to
Yeah,
make
go
a
ahead.
comment to Dr. Sterling. I'm very confident, Dr. Sterling, that Jerry will make sure that they follow exactly that it's recommendations only, and they are not to, they need to stay in their lane.
Right.
And if Jerry does it, which I'm certain he will, then mayor and council absolutely will.
Sure will.
Yes.
All right, so what we'll do from here, under our charter, if we make any changes to ordinances that are proposed other than just correction of clerical errors, then we have to have two readings. So what'll happen from here is these ordinances will be on your agenda at your voting meeting. If it's your pleasure to pass it and someone makes a motion and a second and there's a majority in favor, then you can move first reading of it. And then, the ordinances would not be effective until such time as you had a second reading at your next meeting. So unless you did a special meeting or something, then it would be on the agenda for the March meeting, and then, a second reading in April, and that would be final passage. Now, of course, if you don't pass it, you don't pass it, but if you want to pass it, that's what would happen. So, Jerry and I will work together to get that draft, with the corrections, and not really corrections, with the changes, and we'll have that as part of the agenda packet. All right? So I close the public hearing as to that, and that concludes our public hearing agenda, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We will adjourn. We will adjourn the public hearing, and we're gonna move on. Oh, sorry, I need to take a vote. Is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank
The
you,
public hearing.
Tina. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of adjourning the public hearing? Great, thank you. I'm going to call to order now the work session. The first thing on order here is the agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Sterling. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, James. All in favor of approval of this agenda? Raise your hand. Great, thank you. I'm going to move on to reports. We have several reports. We have several reports to go through with you tonight. Very happy to see these. I'm gonna go over them in the order they were prepared, delivered to you, and in the agenda. The first one just happens to be the mayor, so I get to start this. And I'm gonna go to Tina next, just so you are aware.
Okay.
So what I would just like to tell you for the month, we did a lot of great things, and this is just a summary of those items. For training and learning, I just like to say that, all the newly elected, officials went to training in Athens, not last week, the week before, and it was, 2.5 days of unbelievable information, honestly. And maybe the other council members are gonna talk about it as well, but it was extremely good. And we're already putting some into effect. If you've looked at your agenda, you might see some little changes in there, and I'm very happy about that. We attended the Board of Commissioners meeting, Councilmember Dave Brown and I did, to talk, and provide input to the charter school. Just, you're welcome to ask us questions about that after the meeting if you'd like to. We brought up concerns of traffic. Traffic is a big concern. I think you've heard that again tonight. We brought up the possibility of the school losing money. I also think you heard that tonight. I also attended a Talk It Up Thursday. Actually, Councilmember Dave Brown and I attended a Talk It Up Thursday, which is every Thursday that we get invited to a meeting, and it's different subjects. And this one was on GDOT, so that was very interesting. Some city updates. We did close on the Blankenship property on February 22nd. It was fabulous. I got to be there at the closing. I was honored enough to actually sign some paperwork on that, and we're all very happy about that. We still are talking about the parking deck. I had another meeting today about the parking deck, so we are looking at different options for the parking deck. Several of us have met with Kroger to talk about what types of restaurants and give them the results of the survey that we did in February, late January or February. They were very receptive to that. Jennifer and I met with the DCA, which is Department of Community Affairs. I'm looking for grant money to help with Mulberry Park and also the garden, also known as Larry's Garage. Projects. You're going to hear about the Houston Coffee in this agenda, so I'll just skip that for now. We are working with several people, and several people from city staff are involved. We do have some water flow issues in the city that we are addressing. And we don't really have a project plan for smaller projects. And so it was requested of me to put one together. I have done 2 examples. Well, let me correct that. I didn't do them. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. I reached out to people and asked them if they had any in different cities. And I received one from Gina Roy from the county, actually, and one from our GMA. They are out in review with the rest of the council. That's not true. They're out with one person right now for review and before they get out to the rest of the council. So that's my report. Sorry it was so lengthy, but you can see we're going to have lengthy ones in here tonight. Tina, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. A little bit redundant on a couple of points. So Parks and Rec, continue learning. There was a Parks WebEx that initially I didn't think really applied to us, but then after meeting with the Director of Parks and Recreation for Jackson County, maybe it did. So it was good that I attended that WebEx, sort of regarding passive recreation and the need for more ball fields and that kind of thing, and maybe even, sports tourism and things like that. So it was interesting. And I got to network with other park sort of tasked city council members at the GMA training that we went to, which was thoroughly enjoyable. It was much like drinking from a fire hose, but it was great. It's taken me 2 weeks to process a lot of what I learned there. Then I broke my report up into property. So the Mulberry property, that we already own. The design has been set. We have that matching grant for $500,000. I think there's some tweaks that are still being done to that to finalize that. The rest of it's going to be, of the development of that will be paid with general funds and SPLOST, but just know that it's going to happen. It's just we've got to get that grant money secured, and there's some details that the city manager and mayor are tying up. And as the mayor mentioned, she's seeking additional grant money, which I appreciate because I don't have enough time to do all the things, and she's more familiar. The Blankenship property, as mentioned, 17.109 acres, closed February 22nd. Which is super exciting because it borders on the Mulberry property, so it kind of makes a 22-acre central park for Houston, if you will. Even though it's going to be developed separately, Blankenship will obviously be years behind Mulberry. We're going to tie it together and make it a really cohesive, beautiful central park for Houston. The purchase of that Blankenship property, again, was funded fully by impact fees and the very generous terms of the Blankenships, which I appreciate. Because part of what I've been doing in the last, and I'm sort of skipping down on my report, but in the last month is sort of just using the tax assessor's map and trying to find chunks of property within the city limits or bordering the city limits that we could offer to purchase for additional city property. And it's going to be tough. The Blankenships really did us a favor, and I appreciate that. Oak Street is at 1.78 acres, bordered by a creek and 332, and we want to do something with that. We'd gotten bids for 3 different designs between August and October of last year, which I have reviewed. I'd like to spend a lot less, but I have a lot of ideas on that. I'd like to put out an RFP and get new bids with these new ideas. And I want to move forward with, and I think the mayor and city manager agree, we want to go ahead and do something with that property. But I want to invite you to send emails to me with any ideas you have as well, whether it's Mulberry, Blankenship, Oak Street, anything as far as Parks and Rec, what you would like to see, what you think the community would use. So got an easy email, just email me at the city or whatever. So based on our comprehensive plan level of service for parks, it's 5.33 acres per 1,000 people. We need to buy about 64 more acres by 2028. That's what the impact fees are there for. It's going to be a challenge. So we'll see how that goes. But again, I have already met with one property owner and am seeking out others if it's a sizable piece. We don't want another 2-acre property, but so hopefully that'll turn out something. So I appreciate any input y'all have to offer, and that's what I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Scott, you're next, please.
Thank you. As the mayor said, the whole group spent 3 days in Athens for Carl Vinson Institute. Tremendous amount of information. Actually, I think I came back with a headache. There's just so much to learn, and it's a lot of fun to have a new job, but it's a lot to learn. I was able to sit on the last two DDA meetings. I was actually sworn in February. I've had a lot of meetings with the DDA, that meeting with the vice chairman and the chairman, really just trying to get some creativity there, trying to get a vision moving forward. One of the big things we've talked about, thank you, Ben, for announcing in the newspaper about the potential gala in September. It's not potential, it will happen on 9/21, so we're trying to make the city get itself on the map that way for the citizens. We did start another citizen-led group, so there's some people in here. We're still looking for a couple more members to get involved with us. We're just trying to get it going. It's more of a growth, economic, and marketing group that we're looking for. So if anybody at the end of it, when we're done, want to talk to me about it, it'd be great. We're just really currently have 4 citizens that have volunteered to kind of get started with us and just looking at ways to improve the city, looking at what the citizens want inside the city, which leads us to, visiting a lot of the little small businesses around here, just to continue what we did last month for February. We passed out candy, just still stopping in and just trying to see the people's business and try to learn what they're looking for too, especially with all the growth with Publix and Kroger's coming. Had a lot of time meeting with Kroger, great group of people, just trying to help our city. very much listening to what we're trying to do. They're open to all types of citizen input, looking really to make a major impact on our city. We also went over and we met with the DDA. Jennifer and I spent about 2 hours with Brazelton's DDA, our sister city next door. Really can't thank Jessica and Amy over there enough for all the information they gave us. Again, too much information some days. It just seems like that's what we're doing. We also had the opportunity as a group to go to the Jackson County Roundtable. Mark Koyman spoke again. I think we've heard Mark Koyman speak maybe 5 or 6 times now. The information is just powerful. And that led us to meeting with John Snow. I'm going to have scheduling now a meeting with Jim Shaw, both of them with the Chamber of Commerce, to see again what kind of business we can attract to Houston. I've actually met with the person who heads the board of that too, who's on the board of the Chamber of Commerce. I think I'm heading over to a meeting in the morning. And then, just again, we just had a lot of other meetings, just trying to get involved more with the citizens, trying to listen to everything that you asked us to do when we got involved here. Our doors are open. My phone number, you can go grab it if you need it. I can give you a card. Just love to talk to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Next in line is Dave Brown.
Thank you. As you know, we're working on the 5 and 10-year planning process for the city. My current team is Tiffany Wheeler. We got Mark Koyman, once again, mention his name, Dr. Jerry Weiss and myself, and then we're supported very well by Mayor Martin, and then all departments are working with us through Jennifer here, so we've got a really good team that we're working on. What we're currently doing is we're gathering all the expenditure, getting data, and we're currently working on a property tax digest. I can't speak right now because we want to establish a baseline for the year 2023 and 2024. And that will give us a tool that we can come out and we can break down by zone and by the actual product, what each acre is going to actually bring to the city and so forth, so we can have this tool by property. A good sample for a city our size is around 30 units, and so far, mainly due to Mark Koyman, we've got 250 units sample size, and that's everything from commercial to residential to apartments to single-family dwellings by lot size and by home. Once we get this, we're planning on shifting to the phase 2, which has already started, and we're going out, thanks to Joe Hayes, we're getting every square linear foot of each city owned street in Houston, and we're going to also do the signage so we can come out and we can say that a linear foot cost us this much. Then we can see what's currently in the project and what's out 5 years and what's out 10 years, so we can forecast the cost for the city. Then we're going to shift into the police, and what we have in here is a court, the public works, the city hall, the water, the sewer, the stormwater, open space, parks, building inspectors, cemeteries, recreation, and finally what we're going to put into this is, I call it a factor of safety. It's really a safety zone that we're going to have to come together as a group or as a team, and what that does is account for things that we can't foresee, like the police and everything. We know what our budget's going to be there and so forth, but we don't know if a tornado is going to hit us and take homes down, or if there's going to be a tragic accident out there. So we're going to put some sort of factor of safety in there so we can put that in, and then we will know where all of our expenditures are at. Then we're going to shift gears real hard, and Tiffany Wheeler will become inundated. We're going to go and get all of our capital and find out where everything's coming in here. Once we get all those tools together, we will have all of our revenue coming in and everything, all of our expenditures going out, and we can forecast that out monthly, yearly, 5-year, and 10-year. And hopefully, when we get all that data, it's going to show that we're in pretty good shape and that we're going to move on and we're going to grow great. If by chance it shows that we have to do some things, at least we will have the tool to show what we have to go and do. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Before we move on to the city manager, does any other council member want to update the citizens on anything?
I've got a pretty short and sweet update tonight. I share the same sentiment as the other council members have shared about Athens. It was just a great experience getting to speak with council members from all across the state. I mentioned a couple weeks ago that I'll be filming a 1-minute video that we'll put out as Scott and I work to really market Houston and shape our vision. I believe that I'm aligned with all of you as far as the vision for Houston is concerned, just based on different input and feedback that I've heard. So what we've filmed so far are parts of the video that don't have humans in them, so it's just different landmarks across Houston. And what I'll be looking to accomplish here over the next couple weeks is I'll get with Ace and Rodney. I'd like to get a shot at the Houston Cafe of veterans sitting at a table. And then, of course, I'll work with Chief Hill. I need to get a shot of them and, of course, Madam Mayor in front of the water tower. I'm excited for that video to come together. We'll show it in here when it's done. And then I was introduced to a gentleman, Darren Pash, who's Director of Broadcast Operations with Fox 5 Atlanta. For those of you, I don't watch nearly as much TV as I used to, but for those of you that do watch television in different communities across the state, so Dunwoody, Sewanee, whenever they go to a commercial break, oftentimes Fox will share a little quip of their community. It's custom to them. And Madam Mayor and I would like for Houston to have that same type of presentation on Fox. And so I'll work with Madam Mayor and other city employees on getting something approved to send over to Fox. Again, that just ties in with our vision and marketing. I think it's a nice touch. And that's my update as far as what I've been working on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, JJ. I forgot to say or mention something that's really important, and it happened after I wrote my report, and then I promise you I'm giving Jennifer to you. We did get, if you all recall, I've asked for the signs on 85 going north and south to have Houston on it. We got it. They will be updating the signs. So, yes, thank you very much. And now to Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor. We have had a busy, busy month. We've met with the Historic Preservation Committee to discuss the Darby House. The Darby House is next to the depot, the little building. So we are working on trying to figure out what we are going to do with that building. Our water department had an audit this month, and the audit is conducted every year. This is the second year with this audit, and it is based on a population of 3,300 or more in population. The city... that's me, the city manager. I met with the Gainesville Hall Metropolitan Planning Organization along with other cities as among Gainesville, Town of Brazelton, Oakwood, Hall, and Jackson County to discuss more future life paths. We went to, we are working on our live stream, and I know that we've had some struggles, but we are working to fix and make it clear for the audio and the video live streaming. The Public Works team will start, or actually have started, painting the gazebo, the train depot patio, and fixing rotten wood around the windows at the police department. And just so y'all know, grass cutting season starts next week for us. The Historic Preservation Committee has worked in the community room and has created a collage wall with all the Houston heritage pictures. If you'll turn around and look at the back wall, they have been busy getting those pictures up. Also, in my report, there is, I have created a spreadsheet of all of our city projects for 2024. It consists of the project, the estimated cost, if we have a grant or we don't have a grant, the estimated completion date, and what where this project is funded by. Anybody that wants a copy of it, please see me. I will gladly email you a copy. And also, this is on the website as well. All of our reports are on the website in the packet. Yes, and these are monthly reports that we all do. And I will continue to put the projects in, the packets every month so that y'all can see those and add to them as needed. Dr. Jerry White, is in competition with my long report, and y'all should see his long report. Now, I'm not gonna read it all, but you are more than welcome to get a copy from us. We can email it to you, or you can go into the website and see it in our packet as well. Also, I'm not going to read the building department report, but I will tell you this. We just hired a full-time building inspector, and he comes from Forsyth County. He is amazing. We are so blessed to have him with us, and anytime you want to come by and meet him and talk to him, he would love for you to come by and stop and say hey to him. So for our water department, I know I've gotten several concerns that we had a leak at our new tank. However, every so often we have to drain the water from all of our tanks. And so this month we drained it from the water tank at the north, or our north tank, and we had to replace a valve at the bottom of the tank. So if you saw a lot of water gushing out, it was okay. And that is all that I have, Mayor. But again, any of these reports are online, or we can certainly email them to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, very much. All right, we are going to go to new business. Item number 1, street light on 332 at Town Center Parkway. For those of you who drive that, and I do often, by the way, if you're coming from Publix, which I do often, and you want to turn left at Town Center, if you can see the street at night, good luck. It's really hard. Well, we're getting a light. We're getting a light there. Not a street light, not a street sign like red, white, red, yellow, but at least a light so you know where the darn street is. So that's what item number 1 is about. Is there any questions about that? JJ, I know you live very close to there. That should make you happy.
It'll be music to everybody's ears. It's extremely dark. It's much needed.
It's scary, actually. Yeah. Okay, great. New business item number 2. This is review of traffic study in consideration of a roundabout at intersection East Jefferson Street, West Jackson Road and Maddox Road, Z23-02 PUD, the Providence Group. I'm going to ask Dr. Jerry to speak to this one. Dr. Jerry?
Sure. Mayor and Council, we put this on the agenda because for the Providence Group's project, which is up there at the intersection you just mentioned, the conditions of zoning talked about a 4-way intersection with a possible traffic signal and contribution of $100,000 by the Providence Group toward a traffic signal to deal with the intersection improvements needed for that. In the process of approving that project, the zoning, the PUD zoning, the conditions got modified in a way to where it said, well, a roundabout might work better, and if the council would approve a roundabout, then they would not have to do the intersection improvements described in the conditions of zoning, and they would not have to contribute the $100,000 toward a traffic signal. The Providence Group has agreed to do a roundabout. They proposed that all along, and they said, well, look, let's get a traffic study, and if the roundabout proposal is as good or better than the other, let us build the roundabout and we'll pay for it. So we did exactly that. We got a traffic study. It was paid for by the Providence Group, not the City of Houston. It was managed by the city, not the Providence Group. And that recommendation was that a roundabout, by all means, works better than a 4-way intersection, whether signalized or not. And so before you tonight, or for Tuesday, is we're basically asking for your support to vote. Go ahead and make the decision that a roundabout is acceptable, and then that allows the Providence Group to go ahead and proceed with that in mind. And so there's lots of other things that we may have talked about with this traffic study, but fundamentally it was to confirm that a roundabout was acceptable, would work, and the decision of the professional engineer is that it will work, and so that's the recommendation, is for you to approve a roundabout. And by doing that, then the developer will be able to proceed and start planning toward that, as opposed to a four-way intersection improvement.
Thank you, Dr. Jerry.
You're welcome.
Council, any questions?
I did have one question.
Sure.
The roundabout, I'm assuming it's based upon the Providence Group doing that development.
Yes, by all means, it's not something that the city would plan to do on its own initiative. It was, it's being addressed because that intersection, it already has some issues with it by the way it's aligned, but basically the additional traffic on the part of the Providence Group necessitated improvements, and that's where we got to the point. It would not, if the Providence Group was not doing their project, then we wouldn't be talking about it.
Okay, and the reason I ask that is there a way that we could ask them to begin that project when they begin the development itself versus at the end of the development?
Yes, that's something, the Providence Group has shared their phasing plan, and this comes to you next month, so there's more to talk about in April. We expect it to be on the agenda, but that's an issue that you can, planning staff can raise, city council can raise with them. Their intent was to start at the other end and not to do the improvements on this side, but that's something that we can certainly raise with
Thank
them.
you. Thank you, Mayor.
Jerry, is there any chance of getting the school board, as far as, that's the main issue with that whole road there, is to get the traffic somewhere to move through with the roundabout?
Yeah, first I need to respond to that by saying that if you look at a four-way intersection or a roundabout, the expectation of the traffic engineer is that it doesn't matter which one is which one that we do, both, we're still gonna have a traffic problem with the school. And so, while we look at this development as being a possible solution to traffic ultimately there at the school, there's efforts underway on the part of the city manager and other council members to talk to the school, the County Board of Education, about solving that problem. And there's various things underway in the short term and maybe longer term that are designed to try and take care of that problem independently of the Providence Group's proposal for a preliminary
So
plan.
that's two different studies, really. Basically, it's gonna be the traffic study on the roundabout, but then maybe it's not gonna encompass the cars that sit out there in front of the school.
Yeah, it really, no matter what we do, that improvement would not, it would not improve that situation. I mean, you could argue one may be better than the other, but in the end, as long as the school has their current arrangement, we're gonna have a problem there. And so we need to work independently of what happens with, the developer and try and solve that. And I think that I'm optimistic that the council has some great ideas on how to proceed to solve that problem sooner than later.
You good, are you good, Jen?
Good.
You good? Okay.
So, Mayor, I'd just simply say that the motion on Tuesday night would be, that the council votes to authorize the roundabout in lieu of the original conditions of zoning approval that called for the developer to, do a four-way intersection improvement with contribution toward a traffic signal. It sounded really long, but
Yeah.
I think Jennifer got it.
I got
The
it.
gist of it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on, new business, item number 3, This is, 73 City Square, which is Houston Coffee, door replacement. I am going to ask Jennifer to speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. So, the Houston Coffee Company had approached me and the mayor about, some concerns that they have with the front door. As you see, in this exhibit, that's the door that they are wanting to replace. And you can see from top to bottom, they're having issues, to the point where it's even hard to close the door because of the rotting wood. And so, so that's one concern. Another concern, if you'll look here, if they had any customers that have baby strollers or handicap, it is very difficult to get inside the coffee shop with the ledge the way it is. So,
And also because it's narrow.
and because it's so narrow. So if you go back to the first one, Jen. Okay, and they also want to put a ledge over the door so that when the customers or the employees are coming inside, they're not getting rained on during certain times of the weather. I had reached out to several people. I did not realize it's so difficult to find people that want to work on historic buildings. I do need direction from the mayor and council on how y'all want to handle this. Do you want to keep the character of antique type doors to go with the character of the building? Do you want, which if you look at the quote that's in here, that is doing exactly that. It's going from 2 doors to 1 door that will help if they want to bring, that's the door they also bring all their supplies in. And so the new door will be able to prop open. It'll be a 1 door instead of 2 doors, and but it will keep the historic look. So I'm just asking for direction on what y'all want. If y'all want to keep that historic look, if you want to do a door like we have in the back here at the community center, if y'all can just give me direction, and then I can do some more homework on it if need be.
I see a price of $6,500.
Mm-hmm. And that's doing the historic. They would have to custom make those doors.
Oh, our guys can't do it?
No.
Is there other comments from council?
I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Sure, go for it.
First of all, for some of you that may not know this, we're not wanting to replace the store just because we like the coffee shop. We actually own the building. So that's the reason we're looking at this. I do have a problem with the $6,500, but I would like to keep the looks of what we have, and maybe could we not approach the coffee shop owner and say that we would match what you're willing to do?
We can certainly do that unless Ab says otherwise. Is that the conflict with the with their agreement?
I don't have the lease in front of me, but I feel like you're welcome to approach them and ask them.
So taking out the double doors and putting one single would be, of course, with ADA appliance and everything, front door, right?
That's correct.
Is it a ramp?
But right now, it's not.
It's the ramp, the cover, and the door. Is a $6,500.
Any other comments or questions from council? No? Okay.
I will. All right. We had several items we covered in our public hearing agenda: the variance, the Southeastern Property Developments, PUD rezoning, and then the Planning and Appeals Board ordinances. We can't accept citizen input on those items, as we've already had and concluded those public hearings. But if anyone wishes to address any other item, please raise your hand and I'll call you up. All right, come on up. I know you've done it once, but if you'll again just state your name, your address, whether you're a resident of the city of Houston, and if you could limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Take three.
Oh, there we go. Said it's on.
Go right ahead.
All right. I apologize, I did try to send this last week through the, city website. A thought for the city council and the police chief, in order to, increase foot traffic here in downtown, I was, like for the city council to consider putting, shared signs on Peachtree that golf cart uses, since the golf cart path that was, is not going to be available quite as soon as we would like in order to get golf cart traffic from, my neighborhood over downtown. I think it's a way of increasing foot traffic, which in turn would keep our dollars local. I know that the speed limit on on Peachtree is either 30 or 35 already. There's no trucks allegedly allowed, but we know that there is a lot of truck traffic going into Crestwinds. I drove my golf cart today, and we're talking about a half mile there, but I just think of it as a way to bring more people downtown. We've got over 100 golf carts in that neighborhood, and with Kroger's and Publix, I'd like to get people in the habit of coming downtown now, because I think once we start getting Kroger's and Publix, we may not be able to instill in those in the neighborhood people to come down here and take advantage of the opportunities with the businesses. And, you know, shared golf cart signs along the way, just kind of warning, like share the bicycle path and that kind of thing. Just something for the city to consider. Obviously, the chief probably needs his input there for safety, but just thoughts, that's all. Thanks.
Chief, do we have a golf cart ordinance?
We do.
Okay, I couldn't remember. There's state law on it. I couldn't remember if we had one or not.
We have an ordinance and a permit process.
Okay, all right.
How much are the permits?
$20 or 25. 25.
And you still stick the permit on your golf cart? Okay.
However, we are looking to update that, and we're hoping it's going to be on the April agenda, because right now, if you have a golf cart, you can't even cross, you're not supposed to cross Peachtree, and you're not supposed to cross 53. So, we are, it's been, it's an older ordinance that we need to update.
Yeah, there's state law that's fairly recent on it, that if you cross a state route, you have to go through all these hoops. I also own a golf cart, and, I'll say it in Houston because I'm not in Gainesville, so I live in Gainesville. I use it illegally from time to time. But, you're...
Ben, don't, why are you writing that?
Yeah, we'll take a...
Ben, don't write that.
You put that on the record. All right, that was the only hand, I believe, for citizen input, Madam Mayor, so we'll close that down. The next item is executive session, and if it suits your pleasure, I do ask for an executive session for real estate.
Suits my pleasure.
All right, we'll just need a motion to go in executive session for real estate.
Is there a motion to go in executive session?
I'll motion.
Thank you, JJ. Is there a second? Thank you, Scott. All in favor of going into executive? All right.
I always want to raise my hand.
We will be back.
I'm okay with it too.
I've been here since 4 o'clock. You do?